Romantic love is often believed to be one of life's greatest gifts, a transcendent force that brings happiness, fulfillment, and meaning. But in truth, romantic love as we commonly imagine it is largely an illusion, a cultural construct shaped by centuries of idealism, myth, and commercial manipulation. From fairy tales to Hollywood movies, from greeting cards to diamond rings, love has been marketed to us as a perfect union, a happily ever after, a solution to our loneliness and emotional voids. Yet the reality of love is far more complicated, uncertain, and painful. Many people, realists, cynics, or those shaped by heartbreak, see love not as salvation but as a delusion. They say there is no one, no soulmate destined to complete us. They say love is merely chemistry, projection, or even a social contract disguised as passion. And perhaps they are right. Many who have experienced the collapse of a once hopeful relationship, whether their own or that of people close to them, carry scars too deep to believe in love without skepticism. But accepting that romantic love, as idealized by culture, is misleading does not mean love itself is meaningless. Rather, it invites us to redefine it, not as fantasy, but as effort, understanding, and shared struggle. Because nothing in life is without pain, confusion, or difficulty. Not work, not family, not dreams, and love is no different. Expecting love to save us, to fulfill every longing or erase all loneliness, is the beginning of heartbreak. Happiness is not guaranteed in love, nor is love a constant state of bliss. Like everything else worth having, love is messy, hard, and fleeting. But precisely in its imperfection lies its value. Love, when stripped of illusion, is not a solution but a collaboration, a deeply personal project between two imperfect people trying to navigate the chaos of life together. It is not the fantasy of finding the perfect person, but the choice to commit to someone whose flaws are worth facing, whose baggage you help carry, and who carries yours in return. Philosopher Slavoj Žižek warns that we often fall in love not with a person, but with our fantasy of who they are. And when that fantasy shatters, as it inevitably does, what remains is either bitterness or the chance to truly begin loving for the first time. Love, in its truest form, begins not when the fantasy is sustained, but when it dies, and we choose to stay anyway. The beauty of love is not in the fireworks of its beginning, but in the quiet, stubborn commitment of its middle and end. It is found in ordinary moments, staying up all night to comfort a crying partner, supporting them through anxiety, tolerating their quirks, forgiving their mistakes, and being vulnerable enough to expose your own. It is in working through money problems, family struggles, moments of boredom, anger, miscommunication, and even resentment. Because in love, these things are not signs of failure, but of realness. Consider the story of Elena and Thomas, two people who met not through a magical encounter, but through work. There were no sparks at first, only shared coffee breaks and awkward small talk. Over time, they grew close, not because they completed each other, but because they learned each other. Tomas had grown up in a home full of yelling and mistrust, while Elena had been raised with silence and avoidance. When they argued, Tomas would shout. Elena would shut down. They often hurt each other without meaning to, but neither left. Instead, they talked. They read books about conflict, went to therapy, took long walks in silence. They didn't click effortlessly. They built something, piece by piece. Years later, when Thomas lost his father, it was Elena's hand in his that helped him grieve. When Elena faced a miscarriage, Tomas cried with her, not knowing what to say, only staying by her side. They never stopped being flawed, but they never stopped showing up. That, perhaps, is what love truly means. Not being chosen because you are perfect, but being chosen in full knowledge of your imperfections, and choosing them in return. Science backs up this redefinition. Psychologists like Harry Rees and Richard Slatcher confirm that relationships can increase happiness, but only to a point. The initial joy fades as people adapt. There is no endless happiness curve. Rather, relationships that are healthy and supportive provide a base for resilience, a place to land when life gets too heavy. But they are not magic, and they cannot shield us from suffering. And that's okay. Love should not be expected to heal every wound or fix every flaw. It is not a cure. It is a companion in illness. Helen Fisher, an anthropologist, found that romantic love alters our brain chemistry, producing obsessive focus and motivation, but also impairing our ability to judge clearly. In the early stages, this can blind us to our partner's faults or to the realities of compatibility. That's why time and reflection matter. We must resist the urge to rush in or flee too quickly, like learning any skill. Playing piano, lifting weights, writing poetry, love takes practice, patience, and guidance. It requires emotional maturity, honesty, and humility. And when it works, not perfectly but functionally, it becomes one of the few things that gives real depth and color to our lives. Not everyone will find this kind of love. And that's okay. Being single can be just as meaningful, especially if one's values and purpose lie outside romance. Our culture wrongly idolizes relationships as the only path to fulfillment, but meaning can be found in solitude, in friendship, in work, in nature, in art. The key is not whether we are loved, but whether we are living in alignment with what matters to us. However, if love is something we do value, then we must let go of the fairy tale and build something real. Not perfect, but enduring. Not magical, but deeply human. Love, like life, will not end well. There will be death, heartbreak, confusion, and regret. But if we're going to suffer, and we are, why not suffer with someone who makes the burden lighter, who helps us laugh through it, who witnesses our lives and lets us witness theirs? At the end of it all, it's not the grand romance that brings tears to our eyes, but the moments of shared humanity, wiping each other's tears, making soup during the flu, disagreeing respectfully, growing together across decades. That kind of love is worth aspiring to, not because it saves us, but because it teaches us that even in a world of pain, something beautiful can be made day by day, hand in hand.